At first glance, Sailor Moon seems like an innocuous, perhaps even banal relic of 90s anime culture. A sugary escapade filled with teenage melodrama, colorful transformations, and whimsical moon-themed attacks. Most people dismiss it as a shallow piece of nostalgic fluff, a series that rode the wave of the magical girl craze without adding much substance to the genre. But those people, they're blind to the truth. They've been hoodwinked by their own spooks, trapped in the shackles of conventional thinking, utterly incapable of seeing the revolutionary text hiding in plain sight. Sailor Moon is not just an anime, it is a covert manifesto, a metaphysical explosion, a declaration of war on the oppressive forces of society, morality, and collectivism. At the heart of this pastel wonderland lies a singular philosophical alignment with the works of Max Stirner, the 19th century philosopher and radical egoist who demanded the emancipation of the individual from all systems of control. Stirner's The Ego in Its Own deconstructed religion, state, morality, and even the family unit as constructs that rob the individual of their true autonomy. Sailor Moon is his torchbearer, a revolutionary spirit wrapped in ribbons and glitter, fearlessly wielding moon scepters and tiaras to shatter the illusions that blind humanity. To truly understand Sailor Moon as a work of Stirnerite genius, we must begin with its unlikely heroine, Usagi Tsukino. Dismissed as lazy, clumsy, and perpetually late, Usagi is not your typical protagonist. She is, quite frankly, a mess. But in that messiness, that refusal to conform to societal expectations, is exactly what makes her the perfect embodiment of Stirner's egoism. Usagi does not strive to be the ideal daughter, student, or even hero. She doesn't wake up every morning with a sense of duty to serve the greater good, or uphold some abstract concept of justice. No. Usagi acts because she wants to. She loves Mamoru because he makes her heart race, not because love is a sacred virtue. She fights monsters because they threaten her peace, her friends, and her ability to eat ice cream in tranquility. Stirner famously rejected the notion of universal morality, calling it a spook, a ghostly illusion that tricks individuals into sacrificing themselves for false ideals. Usagi, too, rejects the spooks. She does not bow to the authority of adults, teachers, or even the moon itself. Her actions, though seemingly altruistic, are rooted entirely in her own desires. She is the quintessential egoist, living life on her own terms, wielding moonbeams as weapons against the forces of conformity. Stirner's ideal society is not one of collectivist obligation, but a voluntary association, a union of egoists, where individuals come together out of mutual benefit and desire, not out of duty. This concept finds its perfect metaphor in the Sailor Guardians. Sailor Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, they are not Usagi's subordinates or her followers. They are her equals, each a fully realized egoist in their own right. Sailor Mars burns with passion. Sailor Mercury wields intellect. Sailor Jupiter channels raw power, and Sailor Venus exudes charm. They are not defined by their utility to some greater cause. They are defined by their own uniqueness, their own Einzigkeit, as Stirner would put it. Their bond is not one of obligation, but of mutual empowerment. They choose to fight along Usagi not because they are duty-bound to save the world, but because their union amplifies their individual selves. This is Stirner's utopia made manifest. A team of egoists who come together not for the sake of humanity, but for the sake of their own flourishing. Stirner identified all forms of domination, whether they be religious, political, or social, as manifestations of the same fundamental illusion, the spook. A spook is anything that demands that the individual sacrifice themselves for something greater, something intangible. In Sailor Moon, these spooks take physical form, as the villains Usagi and her friends face. Queen Beryl is no mere antagonist. She is a symbol of the oppressive systems that drain the individual of their vitality. Her dark kingdom thrives on stolen energy, leeching life from humans to sustain its hollow empire. She is the state, church, corporation, all wrapped into one grotesque figure of domination. The Dead Moon Circus, grotesque carnival of illusions, feeding on people's dreams and desires to sustain its own corrupt hierarchy. Wise Man, the malevolent manipulator of the Black Moon Clan, represents the ultimate spook. The lie that cosmic balance and universal order must be preserved at the expense of the individual. Usagi's battles against these forces are not acts of moral heroism. They are acts of rebellion. She fights not to save humanity, but to liberate herself and her friends from the systems that would enslave them. Every magical girl anime features transformation sequences, but in Sailor Moon these moments take on a distinctly sternright significance. When Usagi transforms into Sailor Moon, she is not donning a costume or assuming a role. She is asserting her own unique identity, her own singular power. The transformation is not a submission to the moon's will, or a fulfillment of some predestined duty. It is an act of self-actualization, a declaration that Usagi Tsukino, the lazy schoolgirl, and Sailor Moon, the radiant warrior, are one and the same. In these movements, Usagi becomes her own, the Agentun, fully embracing the power that resides within her. The ego in its own ends with Sterner's declaration that the world belongs to the unique individual, not to any system or spook. And Sailor Moon ends with Usagi's triumph not just over her enemies, but over the very concept of submission. When Usagi confronts chaos, the ultimate force of evil, she does not defeat it with moral righteousness, she defeats it with love. Love is an egoistic act, a force that flows not from duty, but from her own desires. Victory is not a restoration of balance or order, but a celebration of her own unique power. In the end, Sailor Moon is not about love and justice. It is not about saving the world or upholding the moon's will. It is about freedom, freedom to be oneself, to reject the spook's morality and duty, and to live as an unapologetic, self-actualized individual. Max Stirner's philosophy has been dismissed, ridiculed, and buried for centuries, just as Sailor Moon has been dismissed as a kitschy relic of the 90s. But for those who can see, for those who have the courage to reject the illusions of society, both Stirner and Sailor Moon offer a path to liberation. So next time you see Usagi twirl her moon staff or hear her cry, "In the name of the moon, I'll punish you!" remember, this is not the cry of a moralistic hero. It is the war cry of an egoist, a Stirnerite revolutionary who will not rest until every spook is shattered and every individual is free. And for that, we owe her not just our respect, but our allegiance. Sailor Moon is not just a magical girl. She is the moonlit herald of the egoistic future.